This is TWiT.
This is a loaded question. Are you happy in gaming, or do you wish now that you were covering some other?
I like video games, especially in the past year. Look, since I've been at Rev3 Games, it is an internet-based programming. And
Right.
I think when I was doing TV, I could engage with the internet. And I had the luxury of also taking a step back because I had to protect the barrier of
the
camera.
and all that, yeah.
And you know, the internet is an interesting place. And this being a year where Sony and Microsoft were battling, some of the behavior, some of the stuff that I had to sort of go through when I would say something that was not clearly to the liking of a certain group of people out there, it was a little disheartening.
As contentious as it gets for us when we say Windows versus Mac or Android versus iPhone, it's nothing compared to what happens in the. In fact, it's crazy.
No, it is. I mean, there was a period of time. I had the temerity when it was realized that Call of Duty on the Xbox One was an up-res 720p,
right?
Where it was native 1080p
on the PS4,
on the PlayStation 4. I had actually seen quite a few games that were coming out. I couldn't talk about them yet because I was under an embargo.
Yeah.
But what I did in one of my editorials is I just kind of said, like, hey, I think that these companies kind of really screwed themselves because they were trying to say 60 frames a second, 1080p, and they made that out like that really is the gold standard, where really it is matters of design. You could have a very, very good-looking game at 720p, and you could have an ugly game at 1080p.
Right.
But because of what the debate was about the resolutions,
the companies framed the debate inappropriately, really.
Right. And I was just trying to say, like, hey, you know, I actually think 60 frames a second does completely change the experience of playing a game, especially if it's a shooter. Resolution, I had seen the game Rise from Microsoft, and that's running at something called 900p. Brand new resolution I didn't even know about.
Heard of it, yeah.
And I would have never known that unless someone had told me.
Yeah.
And it was because of having seen that, I was like, you know, I think we're getting a little bit lost in the weeds with these numbers.
Oh, you don't say that.
Oh, yeah. I was a shill.
Yeah.
It was there were threats. It was just it was incessant. 35 pages on NeoGAF of just, you know, libel, slander, and
really.
And
you read that stuff?
No, people were alerting me. They're like, this.
That's the problem. There's always going to be somebody who's going to tweet at you. Adam, did you read what they said?
Well, but also some of my colleagues were like, hey, all of us kind of go through this. They're like, you might want to be aware this one's seems to be spinning very much out of control.
This is a hot topic.
And it was like there are moments where I had to inform some of the people that, you know, sort of man the door at my building. I'm like, can you not?
Did you think it was dangerous that you were at risk?
You know, if you look at what happens in a riot or a mob situation, everyone's moving, and it just takes the one guy who might be seeing kind of the bluster of other people, but just doesn't see it only as that hot air. And you know, I actually went back and called my business manager and said, hey, can we start to move things out of my name?
Wow.
It just, I had absolutely no idea.
You were in fear of your safety.
And it's also because when it happens on the internet, your reality gets skewed.
Right.
I knew rationally that this was not the majority. But when the only thing,
all it takes is one nut.
But also when the only thing that's being presented to you is this behavior, is this kind of caustic nature,
think this is how
it's very hard to try to distinguish those two things from one another.
Right.
That was just frustrating. And the other thing is the game industry. It's weird. There are times where I don't know if they want to be covered. Or if they would like to cut the press out of the equation and just go directly to the consumer. Where I'm finding that there are frustrations that seem odd and endemic that, you know, I don't know if they're going to get much better. So I don't say I want to leave games or anything like that. But one thing that I always felt at G4, which they seem to never understand, is no one likes video games at the exclusion of all other things. Right. And there's no reason that we can't broaden the conversation to other things that interest our viewers.